Prices in the US went up, businesses paid more, and families were stuck with inflated costs. Meanwhile, Canada, despite being targeted, started winning. Unemployment fell, and domestic spending soared. Back in 2018, Trump hit allies like Canada with a 25% steel tariff and 10% on aluminum. It was supposed to protect American factories. Instead, it caused chaos. The global market panicked. And Americans paid the price. Clothes, electronics, even groceries, everything got more expensive. Inflation in 2022 hit 8%, the highest in 40 years. That's not protecting America. That's squeezing it. Canada, different story. By June 2025, they added over 83,000 new jobs. Unemployment dropped to 6.9%. Why? Canadians stayed local. They traveled inside the country, dined in local restaurants, booked Canadian hotels. Tourism and hospitality saw a boom. Cities like Toronto and Vancouver couldn't hire fast enough. Quebec, hit by US tariffs, still grew 0.5% in GDP in early 2025. Investment and infrastructure kept it stable. So while the US crumbled under its own strategy, Canada pivoted, adapted, and grew stronger. Then came June 30, 2025, Canada's big break. The first LNG shipment to Asia, bypassing the US completely. No more pipeline dependence, no more US tolls. Canada now exports gas directly to South Korea. The route from Kitimat, BC, to Asia in just 10 days, half the time and none of the US interference. Canadian gas now sells for a third of the US price. Why? No Panama Canal, no US tariffs, no middlemen. Japan and South Korea are expanding LNG imports. And Canada's right there to supply it. Before, 95% of Canadian gas exports went through the US at lower prices. Not anymore. Now, Canada controls its energy, sets its prices, and signs long-term deals without begging Washington. That's not just economics, that's power. Diplomatic power. Energy independence, leverage. This $40 billion LNG Canada project isn't just infrastructure. It's a shift in Canada's global position. But there's pressure. Expanding too fast could hurt emissions targets and strain infrastructure costs. Still, the first phase is online. Full capacity comes in August. Eco gas is cheap, inflation stays low. Canada knows the race is on. If they don't lock in deals now, Qatar, Australia, and the US will. Back in Kitimat, local jobs are exploding. A $5.8 billion deal with indigenous communities includes direct ownership. Over $23 billion in government revenue is expected, despite carbon taxes and regulation. And while Trump's strategy sinks US trade, Canada's breaking free, on its own terms. Let's talk trade deficits. In May 2025, the US deficit shot up 18.7%, hitting $71.5 billion. Exports, down 4%. Goods like cars and machines fell nearly 6%. So while Trump talked America first, the numbers said America pays. Tariffs don't hurt foreigners, they tax Americans. A $50 sneaker. Now it's $64. These aren't numbers. These are your groceries, your furniture, your paycheck. Imports surged 41.3% in Q1 2025, dragging down US GDP by nearly 5 points, the worst since World War II. Canada, China, and the EU didn't sit quietly. They hit back. US goods lost markets, workers lost orders. Factories, farms, supply chains, everything took a hit. And prices kept rising. Canada. They didn't whine. They went global. Exports to Japan, up 23%. To Germany, up 46%. To the UK, over 300%. They found new partners, signed new trade deals, and sold high-quality goods where they were wanted. Even at the grocery store, Canadians made a statement. They bought Canadian carrots and skipped the American ones. Not loud, not angry, just deliberate. Then came Amazon. A symbol of US business in Canada. But when tariffs hit, Amazon stayed silent. Canadians noticed. Searches for "cancel Amazon Prime" skyrocketed. People canceled subscriptions, stopped placing orders, and switched to local platforms. From Reddit to Facebook, Buy Canadian campaigns blew up. Apps like MapleScan helped shoppers find Canadian-made products. This was no trend, it became a movement. Amazon warehouses in Quebec shut down. Over 1,700 workers gone. The backlash, massive. Canada didn't need speeches. Consumers voted with their wallets, and US brands felt the punch. This wasn't just about tariffs. It was about respect, fairness, and sovereignty. Meanwhile, back in the US, corn, the king of American agriculture, was rotting. Prices dropped. Farmers were bleeding cash. GMO bans in Mexico and Asia left American corn out in the cold. Canada, they stepped in. Non-GMO, traceable, clean corn with premium prices. They locked in 5-year contracts with South Korean feed mills. The US was left watching. Corn stockpiles are now at a 6-year high. Ethanol plants shutting down. Farmers losing $50 100 an acre. What used to be US strength is now a silent crisis. Canada's quiet rise is America's loud warning. So what's the takeaway? Tariffs were supposed to protect America. Instead, they empowered its neighbors and weakened its own economy. Canada didn't fight fire with fire. They fought it with strategy, and won. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, hit that like button. Subscribe to the Untold Compass for more stories you won't hear on the evening news. And don't forget to share this video with someone who still thinks tariffs make a country strong.